Yes, yes, yes. We are back with another installment of Quiet Storm Sports on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. Before we get into anything, make sure you like this video. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new, if you don't want to miss any of our Ravens content coming out this 2025 season. Also, make sure you hit that little notification bell as well, because as you can see, we will be going live at random times depending on what news is dropping. So if you don't want to miss any of that, make sure you hit that notification bell as well. Also, want to give a big shout out to our Purple Rain patrons. We've got Haha Dix, we've got Chris M, we've got Don C, Tila M, we've also got Jing as well. Shout out to all of them. Love our Purple Rain patrons, true Purple Rain pioneers, parts of the family. Let me see who we got in the live chat right now. We've got Pope in the building. What's going on, Pope? Says Nody gang. That's what I'm talking about, man. That's what I'm talking about, brother. Got the Nodies on, man. That's how you got to do it. That's how you got to do it, especially when football season's rolling back around, man. It's only right. Zeke Okage in the house says, was good, Sutton, and everyone. What's going on, Zeke? Appreciate you for coming through. Obviously, big elephant in the room. Big elephant in the room right now. Let me just not even mince any more words with it. So Lamar Jackson is not practicing today. Not participating in Wednesday's practice, just reported by pretty much all of the Ravens media members as the Ravens are at practice as we speak. And I'm kind of getting live updates as we speak. So I'll be going through some of those with you guys during this live stream. So yeah, get ready for that. Now, what I will say is that, along with Lamar Jackson not practicing today, there's also a lot of other vets not practicing either. So to just kind of run through that list really quick, and this is also reported by Jeff Zarebek, Patrick Ricard, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, of course, Isaiah Likely, Emory Jones, Adisa Isaac, William Quinku, and Chidobe Awuzie. They are also not practicing. So I mean, this could be one of those things where, I mean, because this is also the final practice before, the final practice that's open to the media and available to the media. So maybe they're just trying to, I don't know, be precautionary before their week 3 preseason game against the Commanders. But I I don't know, man. I'm still very worried. I've got a lot of doubt right now. I don't really know how to feel because yesterday, and I know I didn't go live to talk about this, but I put it in a short video yesterday after the news dropped that Lamar Jackson had left practice. So let me actually just run through that for you. So it was reported that Lamar Jackson left practice 40 minutes early yesterday. And what happened was apparently somebody had stepped on his foot and he fell and I think probably landed most of his weight on his wrist and he ended up tweaking his wrist a little bit. He stayed in for a few reps after that whole thing happened and apparently his throws did not look that good. And then he was ultimately led off the field with the strength and conditioning coach Scott Elliott and he was never seen again. And then just randomly, and this is the whole foot got stepped on part, randomly, as I guess the Ravens media members were just kind of mulling around, wondering what happened to Lamar Jackson. A random, and I don't want to say random, but a Ravens spokesperson, quote unquote, ran out to them, and I'm kind of exaggerating here, but like, out of breath, it's like, oh, don't worry, guys, everything's fine. Lamar Jackson, he's fine. He just got his foot stepped on. But prior to Lamar Jackson leaving the field, it was reported by guys like Jeff Zarebek that Lamar Jackson was kind of flexing his wrist and holding his wrist, and there seemed to be some discomfort there. So it was kind of interesting to me, and what I think is a little bit fishy, quite honestly, is the fact that this quote unquote spokesperson came out and only mentioned the fact that Lamar Jackson got his foot stepped on. So if he was close enough to whoever, the doctor or whoever, the strength and conditioning coach or wherever where he got that information, how would he also not know that something might have been going on with his hand or wrist? And if he did, why did he not come back and report that to the Ravens media? It seems like a little bit of a cover up job, if you ask me. Something smells fishy. Something smells fishy. That's what I'll say. Let me see what you guys are saying in here. I hope Lamar does not have to miss any time of the season. I hope so as well. Hopefully, they're just being super cautious. I doubt this is going to be anything remotely close to the Najee Harris situation. I mean, I hope not. I mean, Najee Harris, he can only see out of one eye right now. Apparently, I mean, I don't know. Things aren't looking too good for Najee Harris. But when it comes to Lamar, this is not good. This is not good at all. It feels like the Ravens are trying to actively, like, as we speak, assess the severity of whatever's going on. But they know that there is something going on, and they're not quite ready to expose that to the public yet. Now, maybe after practice today, we'll have John Harbaugh come out, take the podium. Of course, the first question he's going to be asked is about Lamar Jackson's well-being. And maybe John Harbaugh goes out there and says, "Oh yeah, he's fine. It's just something that we're just trying to be extra careful about, and this would be a non-issue, right?" However, I don't know how much trust and how much stock you put into John Harbaugh's word in the big 2025, because we've seen before, he's, I don't want to say covered up, but like not really exposed the whole truth about a certain players' injuries and things like that. So if this is something that's bigger than what it is, and here's another thing too, a lot of people are talking about what happened, like, who stepped on his foot, right? Who was the culprit to hit Lamar and ultimately send him to the ground? And the fact that, conveniently even, none of the Ravens reporters, none of the media members from the Ravens happened to catch what happened. And I can understand kind of why, because if Lamar Jackson's throwing the ball, of course you're looking at the ball once the ball is released. And I assume this maybe happened like a second after the ball was released. So the ball's in the air, everybody's eyes are looking at the ball. Meanwhile, I guess there's an offensive lineman that steps on Lamar Jackson's foot. And then out of these guys' peripherals, the Ravens media's peripheral vision, they see Lamar Jackson on the ground, and then they just see offensive lineman helping him up. Now, it was reported that Ronnie Stanley was one of the guys helping him up, but it was also reported that there were multiple guys there to help him up. So I don't know who it was, but a lot of people, of course, are kind of speculating, and I don't want to really like jump on that bandwagon, but I think it's worth mentioning, the whole Daniel Faalele thing, number 77, because I think that, if it wasn't, and somebody made a good point online about this, if it wasn't Daniel Faalele who stepped on Lamar's foot, right, and caused this to happen, then I think that it would have been much easier for the Ravens to come out and just kind of be honest and upfront about it. Like, yeah, uh, you know, I don't know, Linderbaum or, Voorhees actually accidentally stepped on his ankle, or not ankle, but stepped on his foot and caused him to trip up and fall, things like that. But the Ravens already know how much heat a guy like Daniel Faalele is facing right now. So it does make it a little bit more suspicious, the fact that they're kind of covering up and hiding exactly what happened. Not that it necessarily matters, because it did happen, right? Lamar's hurt. Like, we're gonna have to kind of go from here. But the fact that and conveniently, again, nobody saw what happened. It kind of, again, it smells a little bit fishy. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. Zeke says it was 77. Pope says if this continues to go on through next week, then I'd be concerned. You guys aren't like the Rams when it comes to brushing over injuries, right? I mean, if you ask a lot of the Ravens fans, they don't really trust John Harbaugh and kind of what he has to say. Uh, Only because I think, again, in the past, there's been moments where he did not tell the full truth about how hurt guys really were, and they were out longer than expected. So, let me see what else you guys are saying in here. A guy, Attitude Pop, is in the building, says, I don't think it's anything serious. They're just being cautious and giving him rest. He may miss a few practices, but it's nothing serious. He still stayed in for more reps. He was just having a bad day pre-injury. Yeah, that was also reported by Cordell Woodland, a friend of the show. He was saying that, pretty much the entire practice was not very good for Lamar Jackson. So maybe it was just an off day. It was reported that he was frustrated. He had threw his wristband in frustration after, or something like that, after a bad play. Um, I think he threw an interception. I want to say TJ Tampa caught two yesterday. I want to say one was from Rush and one was from Lamar, but don't quote me on that. Both of them might have been from Rush, but don't quote me on that. But they might have split. Anyway, Lamar Jackson wasn't having a good practice yesterday. So for it to end like that is, man, this is a terrible day. This is a terrible day. 60 people watching live right now. Thank y'all so much for coming out to this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. We are speculating in here today on what is going on with the Baltimore Ravens quarterback, Lamar Jackson, right? That's what we're talking about here. And, you know, for me, again, I don't want to overreact. I don't. But when we're talking about, first it's his foot. I mean, well, first is his hand, and then he got his foot stepped on. It's like, okay, those are two very, very key body parts for a quarterback, let alone a Lamar Jackson who is very mobile. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need any foot funny business, right, with Lamar Jackson, and we definitely don't need any right hand because it's his right hand. It's not his left hand. It's his right wrist and hand that was reported that he was kind of favoring and showing some discomfort towards. So I don't know, man. It's concerning either way, and the fact that they held him out of practice today, like completely, like I don't even see any reports that he's on the sidelines doing individual drills, anything like that. Let me actually get a little update here, see what the writers are saying. So nothing new as of now, but again, all the writers kind of, I don't want to say oddly, but like Jameson Hensley, who I thought actually had me blocked on X, which is funny. I guess he must have unblocked me. But Jameson Hensley said Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson is not practicing Thursday. Oh, it's why do I think it was Wednesday? It's Thursday practice. My bad, but I need to actually update that. But it's yeah. So I think that with all these guys tweeting the way that they are, uh, it seems like everyone's still holding their breath right now, and I would assume that somebody is going to address the media, and sooner rather than later, sooner rather than later, man. That's all I'll say. They have to. They have to because I just don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not a fan of speaking things into existence, but what could be the worst case scenario? No way that stops him from playing week one, right? I mean, it's a possibility. Week one is 17 days away. That is about 2.5 weeks away. And, if it's anything like Isaiah Likely when it comes to the foot part, right? Because they said he got his foot stepped on. I don't know, how bad it was. The fact that he stayed in for a few more reps kind of lets me know that it can't be that bad, right? But at the same time, yeah, at the same time, you just never know with the team, and that's where it kind of goes back to not really trusting what the coaching staff has to say for face value. But I guess we'll get some sort of news after practice today. We'll get some sort of news after practice today. I know that. So we'll see. We'll see. Um, 72 people watching live. What do you guys think happened, man? What do you guys think happened? I think it was one of those things where maybe he was in the pocket and one of the guards, probably maybe the center, got backed up into him and stepped on his foot as he was throwing a pass, maybe. And when he was falling, he landed with most of his weight on his wrist. That's probably what happened. Still the reps after the injury can't be that serious. He might just have a little pain in his wrist. Yeah, and that's what it kind of is feeling like right now. That's what it's feeling like right now because if it was something severe, I feel like we might have gotten an update yesterday just so they can kind of get out ahead of it. But I think this is one of those things where, Lamar is telling the coaching staff that, hey, there is some discomfort there. There is some discomfort. But so ultimately speaking, they're gonna just basically put him in bubble wrap and just save him for September 7th. You know. Uh he hasn't played in any preseason games at all so far, which is a little bit surprising to me, to be honest with you. I thought that and I get it. The philosophy for the Ravens is to just rest their guys. They kind of followed in the footsteps of like a Sean McVay and all those guys who started doing that a couple of years ago. And now the Ravens, we don't play starters in the preseason at all. And I get it. We have championship aspirations, and you want to save your guys for the most important parts of the season, which is the regular season through the post. Not necessarily so much the preseason, but again, I've always talked about getting those live game reps, right? And kind of like getting wired up for football in a way. I think that in practice, like practice is great. Practice, what they say makes perfect. I don't believe that. I think that practice can make you better, but it can't necessarily prepare you for live game action, right? Like think about it. Like why do you think that something so small like this, something like Lamar Jackson getting his foot stepped on by his own man, um in practice, and then landing on his wrist and that really kind of banging him up and leaving him out of the next day's practice. Why do you think that something so small like that, can take Lamar Jackson off the field, but a 17 game season where he's going against absolute dogs and killers every single week, right? Switching seasons throughout from hot to cold weather and what, and his body sustains it all like he did the last couple of years. because like when you get in that football rhythm, like it's a different type of, I guess, reaction that your body has to gameplay, right? Practice gameplay is at a certain speed, but real live gameplay is at a totally different speed that I feel like our guys are not necessarily getting by not playing in the preseason. Now look, you guys may call me crazy for talking like this because this video is literally titled like Lamar Jackson is being held out of practice, Thursday, not Wednesday. That's a typo on my part. Um, but again, man, I think that this might have something to do with, kind of the muscle memory and kind of being lackadaisical a little bit in practice because it's just practice. We're talking about practice again, not a game. Shout out to Allen Iverson, but we're talking about practice, right? Like you got to get these guys accustomed to live game reps. So by the time the season actually starts, they're already used to them. They can kind of flip that switch a little bit easier. That's always just been my stance on it. I won't move off of that. And I don't know, some people may disagree though. I know some people may disagree. By the way, we will also be live later on today, me and Alex, for episode 328 of the Purple Rain podcast. So make sure you stay tuned in for that. I'm sure there will be some news coming out after practice today that we'll be able to talk about later on and, kind of break all of that down. Let me see. We got produced by Urban Closer in the house. What's going on, brother? Says hit that like button or else Falele is going to be your favorite player. Look, man, I'm still rooting on Falele, man. It's his job to lose, according to John Harbaugh. He released, the official full lineup for the offensive line the other day, and Falele is right there. And I don't necessarily see him doing anything bad enough or egregious enough on film. As loud as his losses are, as my guy Kevin Ostriker, another friend of the show, likes to say, as loud as Daniel Fa'alele's losses are, there's something that Harbaugh sees in him ultimately, and that's going to, keep him having a job on this team. So I gotta root for him. We gotta root for him. And not to say that he's just flat out bad because he put some good stuff on tape, but it's just about the consistency. It's just about the consistency for Daniel Fa'alele. Like if he can be a lot more consistent in pass blocking, that would definitely take his game, I think, to the next level. There's just some technique things there for Fa'alele. You know what I mean? Like the foot speed, I think he's kind of getting a little bit better at. He still needs work on it. His hand placement is another thing that kind of bothers me at times. He kind of lets guys get into his numbers, get into his jersey, his pads, as he tries to bear hug him, and sometimes that gets him put on his butt. We've seen that multiple times happen before. So a couple of technique fixes for him. I feel like he should be fine. Again, he finished last season actually pretty strong. If I'm not gonna lie to you. So Fa'alele, we're just gonna have to wait and see what we get from him. Gonna have to wait and see what we get from him. It really is his job to win. Hope I'm wrong, but yeah, let me see. That man is way too tough to go out like that. It wasn't rolled up on, nor was it a non-contact injury. Fingers crossed he's okay, and it's just over communicating to the team. Uh, yeah, man, that's really the only hope right now. The only hope right now, because I know all Ravens fans are holding their breath, and I hope they're asked about it today after practice too. I really, really do hope that somebody is speaking after practice. Let me see, kind of what we have going on at practice here. You know what? Even better idea. Let's do that. Yeah. Let's get a little screen share going, shall we? See what the Ravens are up to right now. Don't want to make this video too long. Again, shout out to everybody watching right now. Over 80 people watching live. Thank y'all so much for coming out to this episode of Quiet Storm Sports as part of the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. Lamar Jackson missing practice is crazy. That is crazy. Insane. All right. Let me pull this up for you guys. Here we go. All right. Let's look through some of what we have here. My guy Cordell Woodland. is reporting. Do I have the noties on for Cordell? I need to put my noties on for Cordell. I thought I did that. He's great, by the way. Let me see. Oh man, I can't wait for the parlays this season, guys. I cannot wait for the parlay, the Purple Rain parlay segment, man. If you like to sports bet, then make sure you stay locked into the Purple Rain podcast YouTube channel because every single week before the Ravens game, we're gonna give you a 3-leg Ravens parlay that we feel really, really strongly about. We feel honestly last year we did pretty good in spots, but we went on some cold stretches as well. And that's just kind of how it is with sports betting. But it's always a ton of fun. We always gauge the the chat as well and kind of get the pick ideas from them too. But it's gonna be a bunch of fun, man. I can't wait. I can't wait. I think I went down too far. Not looking at Charlie Kohler. Also wanted to react to the Ravens Wired. I think there was some stuff, some good stuff about Zay Flowers in there too. As you guys can see, as reported by Gianna Jade there, bunch of Ravens not practicing today. Ravens showing off some DB work. Malachi Starks, who looked good against the Cowboys. Of course, as a safety, especially in the preseason, you're not going to get a whole lot of opportunities. You're going to see, again, especially the times that Malachi Starks is going to be in the game. He's not, of course, playing the entire game. First half, I think, is kind of where they have him. And in those scenarios, you're going to see a lot of vanilla offenses, not necessarily too much going down the field, but quick read stuff, just stuff to kind of get the offense flowing. So therefore, safety play is not going to be highlighted as much in the preseason. So, but I think that Malachi Starks, man, again, I was talking to the Charm City Sideline podcast. Make sure you guys go subscribe to them. I was talking to them about this, about Malachi Starks and just how I think he's going to allow, Zach Orr to just put Kyle Hamilton wherever he wants on the field and really be that chess piece. It's going to be, again, I don't think that you're going to have to run a whole lot of too high shell against a lot of our opponents because I think that the main thing that the Ravens are focused on are a lot of these quarterbacks not extending plays. Of course, shutting down the run, but then when obvious passing downs do happen, making sure that some of these high octane quarterbacks, again, I always talk about that word, Josh Allen's, the Patrick Mahomes, even the Joe Burrows, making sure that they're not escaping the pocket and ultimately killing us, because that's where you lose. That's where you lose a lot of the time against some of these better quarterbacks of today. Shout out to Bobby Trossett and Sarah Ellison, also live right now as well as a part of the Ravens Vault. Let me see. Got to get Bobby back on one of these days. Linebacker work going on. That's looking good. There was also that I didn't want to scroll past this, but there was also that Micah Parsons thing that Jerry Jones was talking about again today. He was on some sort of morning news channel, and he was talking about how basically they need Micah Parsons to be a team player, in order for the Cowboys to reach another Super Bowl and really reach that promised land. He was basically saying in this clip here that Micah Parsons is going to have to basically take a pay cut. Like, we can't give you quite as much as, your agent and you are saying that you want. And it's funny because I think that Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones had like sort of like a handshake deal going on beforehand. But Micah's agent's like, no, we're not doing any handshake deals without me involved. Like, no, we're gonna ask for this, right? So I can get paid more. Ultimately, that's what his agent is thinking. David Mulugeta, I believe, and we're just gonna go about it like that, And I think that led to a stalemate. And Jerry Jones is like, man, like I'm tired of paying guys like top of the market money year after year after year and still not winning a championship. So I mean, obviously paying Dak all that money a couple of seasons ago, then CD last season. And now it's like, okay, now it's Micah Parsons' turn to get paid. And it's like all these guys on the Cowboys, they want it, like they feature these guys so much. Like they feature CD Lamb in the offense. So yes, of course you have to pay him. Micah Parsons is your featured edge rusher. So yeah, you're gonna have to pay him. And guess what? He's at another premium position. You got wide receiver, edge rusher, and quarterback. Those are your premium positions, and of course left tackle. But if you can lock those down, you can make the money work. You can kind of move it around elsewhere, move the money around elsewhere, but you make sure that those four positions are paid: left tackle, quarterback, wide receiver, and edge rusher. You're gonna need that. You're gonna need that. So, I mean, I don't know what Jerry's doing. Everybody's saying that Jerry just likes the spotlight. He just likes the spotlight. But let me see. Urban Closer says Micah is tired of losing. I mean, he wants, yeah, of course, he wants to win. But I also think he really wants to be a Cowboy too. There's a lot that comes with being a Cowboy, a lot of benefits, off the field as well. You're just more in the spotlight. I think they're the most valuable sports franchise um in the world, I want to say. I want to say they're worth like 12 billion or something like that. So, with that being said, look, it's been 30 years. It's been 30 freaking years since the Cowboys have done anything of substance. You know what I mean? Like NFC championship game, anything. And I think you just kind of have to, if you're the Cowboys, because the Cowboys actually don't draft terrible. They don't draft terrible. They draft pretty well, actually. They need a running back. They need a solid running game. And this is something I was also telling Bradley and Zach from Charm City Sideline podcast yesterday, too. I mean, Dak's best moments in his career was when he had Ezekiel Elliott back there as a running back. And like the whole Dallas offense was not predicated on him getting the football to his top receivers like a CD Lamb, like or Amari Cooper like it was back in the day. But let me see. Pope says Terry McLaurin's agent is even worse. Terry McLaurin is just in a very, very weird spot right now. He's in a very weird spot. He spent a lot of time on a sinking ship that was the Redskins, then football team, and then Commanders, right? The ship seemed to be sinking. And then finally, they draft this kid, Jaden Daniels, out of LSU. He turns around the entire franchise. Of course, they get under new ownership as well, the Josh Harris group. Um, and then, Terry McLaurin is already what, 5, 6 years into his career. Pope, let me know what year is he going into, Terry McLaurin. But he's not getting any younger. Of course, he's coming off a really good season with a really good young quarterback, and that's his whole argument. Like, I'm still a great player, and you have a young quarterback who you're going to need him to have a security blanket or just a flat out wide receiver one in order to continue his development. So pay me, right? But I, I don't know. I think that the Commanders they don't necessarily want to, and I've heard that the Commanders GM is very cutthroat, and I was kind of surprised to hear that. So like I can assume that they're probably very far apart and there's a stalemate there. Now I don't know. I mean, if I'm Terry, I'm taking, if it's not necessarily DK money, right? I'll take slightly under that just to be with the contender, because you were just in the NFC Championship game. You don't know what next step this team could take this season. So I don't know. I saw somebody mention uh Bill Krosky Merritt. Yeah, we were texting about him, Pope. You and I, Bill Krosky Merritt. He's gonna cash a lot of parlays for you. I mean, is that a guy who I need to look at in fantasy? Is that a guy who I need to like look at as like my flex option in fantasy? Bill Krosky Merritt. I mean, I saw the run that he had last week against the Bengals, but I did also hear that he played the majority of that game and he was kind of slowed up after that. Didn't really do too much, but I don't know. I got to watch more tape on the guy. Got to watch more tape on the guy. Um, Wonder what else is coming out of Ravens training camp right now, if anything. No, I think they're still running practice. I think they're still going through practice right now. So I I think that was gonna be it for this episode. I wanted to keep it under half an hour as we're right around that time limit here. Look, guys, Lamar Jackson news is coming. I think by the end of this Ravens training camp today, I think that we will get some an update on Lamar Jackson's status, whether or not it's his foot, whether or not it's his hand, his wrist, is it all three? Um, I'm sure we'll know some news. And again, make sure you stay locked into the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel because we do have the live episode later on with Alex, my guy Simply as 10, my co-host. We will be going live later on today to discuss things that are happening right now in training camp, and then also the update on Lamar Jackson. So again, want to thank y'all for coming through. There's still 90 people in here watching live, but thank y'all again. and you said he's going into year 6. I appreciate that, Pope. That's what I was thinking. Terry McLaurin going into year 6, so he's not getting any younger. But we'll see what happens with him in his contract. All the best to him. Harbs, don't be foolish. Yeah, yeah. Get up there and say something. Harbaugh, if you get up there and say something, give us an update, man. Like, we need this Lamar Jackson news more than we need air. And guess what? We will be here to cover it later on today on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. But again, appreciate you guys. Love you all. Love you all. Make sure you have a great day. Be safe, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.